Hey everyone, what is going on? So we have another meta guide for you today. It's going to be the Ultra League, the Open Ultra League. So my favorite league begins tomorrow and it's going to run alongside the Element Cup as well. So let me know which league you're going to play. Is it going to be the Ultra League or the Element Cup? So as I mentioned, I do consider this my best league. If you watch me on stream, it's the league I hit Legend in most of the time, Ultra League metas. Of course, I have hit it in Great Leagues as well, but Ultra League is where it's at for me. But let's go ahead and dive right into these battles and see what we got going on for us. So we have some changes with the Hidden Fates meta, but it's not too much. I mean, you don't see Trevenant in the lead, right? But we still see some of the top picks, like Registeel. So Registeel is absolutely still going to dominate. Hopefully you have a good one. I mean, I do. Well, I have a decent one. Maybe I'll build it. I don't know if I could build it, though. I don't think I have quite enough XLs. I think I'm close. We'll see. But yeah, Registeel absolutely going to dominate. Next up, Cresselia. So Cresselia actually got better this season because Trevenant is not going to be as relevant. You'll probably still see it here or there, but it got better because of that. Yes, there's still Jellicent, but if you're running Grass Knot, that is super effective towards Jellicent, so that's not a bad matchup. And Cresselia is really tanky, so Cresselia could go a couple different movesets. It could go the Grass Knot Moonblast, but if you do that, you have no play against like Charizard or Talonflame or any fire types. But you know, if you go Future Sight and Moonblast, you could do that, and then you'll have play obviously with the Future Sight against like the Charizard, for example. But then you would have a super effective attack towards like Jellicent or Swampert. So it's totally up to you. But I've seen multiple different movesets. And Grass Knot is a legacy move set, by the way. Legacy move. Then we have Cobalion, one of my favorite Pokemon. I love using Cobalion. Another non-XL one, Cresselia, of course, and Cobalion non-XL. Think it's fantastic. Pidgeot, I would say Pidgeot's probably my favorite Pokemon. I love debuffing my opponent's Pokemon with Feather Dance, especially if it's their last Pokemon. If Pidgeot's chilling in the back, you debuff it, you can flip some matchups. You're looking really good with that Pidgeot, even through shields, right? And then we have Swampert. Swampert, of course, is a great Pokemon with the Mud Shot and Hydro Cannon and Earthquake. Just overall a powerful pick. It always has been. We don't need to go much into detail. Giratina is another interesting one. Do you go Ancient Power or Shadow Sneak or Shadow Force? It really depends. It could go either way. Of course, you do like that Ancient Power towards Pidgeot and Charizard and Talonflame, right? Any of the flying types. Even Noctowl, should you see it, which will probably be rare, but you get the point. Flying types, Ancient Power, but the Shadow Sneak is a way, or Shadow Force, to hit the Steel types. So it really depends on your moveset and your team of what you want to go with. Dragon Breath and Shadow Sneak are both good as well. Dragon Breath going to give a lot more play against like the Obstagoon and the Scrafty and stuff, because that Dragon Breath damage is insane. Moving on to the A rank, Regirock, actually a really good Pokemon. Yes, we see Registeel dominate, but Regirock is still a really powerful pick. Virizion is another great one. It does have to watch out for that Pidgeot, but, you know, I mean, it could run Stone Edge. Sometimes you see Stone Edge. I like Stone Edge over Leaf Blade, so you still give the flying types a run for its money, right? You can still KO a Charizard, for example, but obviously it does have to watch out for that. Not as good as Cobalion, but it's still really good. Then we have Walrein. So, of course, Walrein was nerfed seasons ago, but it was quote-unquote unnerfed this season, if you will. It still takes 5 every time to get to that Icicle Spear, but it's going to be doing more damage. So Walrein definitely gaining some play this season. We saw it a couple of times. We saw it a decent amount of times after it was nerfed. You'll see it more so now. So then we have Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini, of course, with that Water Gun pressure, really powerful. That Fairy typing, going to do well against the Dragon types and the Fire types in this meta. Jellicent, because of the Trevenant nerf, I think Jellicent is going to gain even more play. It was still really good. I've personally used Jellicent even in the Trevenant meta. I think it's a great Pokemon, but it's going to gain even more play. It does have to watch out, of course, for the Pidgeot, but at least you have Surf that you can hit Pidgeot and Obstagoon with. Obstagoon is another great Pokemon. I love Obstagoon with that counter. I like Night Slash and Cross Chop, but it does have Gunk Shot as an option for Fairy types. Moving on to the B rank, we do have Steelix. So Steelix with that Dragon Tail, with that Psychic Fangs. You could run Crunch or Earthquake. Steelix is an XL monster, and it's really strong. It really is. It could take hits for days. So if you get it on a good matchup, like against the Flying type, you're looking really good. And then we have Gliscor. Gliscor, I feel like it's still really good, and I really like Gliscor. It's definitely up there, but because of the ice buff, like the Alolan Sandslash and the Walrein, Gliscor has to watch out, but it's still a strong Pokemon. And yeah, I mean, it's just such a really strong Pokemon. Aurorus is another ice type that is really good. It was good last season. Ever since it got the Media Beam, it became meta relevant, right? Yeah. And then we have Guzzlord with the Dragon Tail. Guzzlord is a strong pick. In general, I mean, bulky, pretty bulky, relatively bulky, I guess, in the Ultra League. And I mean, if it stays away from fairy types, it's got that brutal swing. It's got that Dragon Tail as a fast move damage, which is really powerful. It just needs to avoid some Pokemon. It needs to avoid Cobalion. Fighting types it doesn't like at all. It has Dragon Claw. And then we have Charizard, or Shadow Charizard. It's a really strong pick. Charizard is a really powerful Pokemon. Yeah, just avoid the water types, right? Ever since they got that Wing Attack buff, which is Legacy, Blast Burn is Legacy as well. So if you don't have them, you might have to invest a couple of Elite TMs, but it is worth it. Then we have Galarian Stunfisk. You need the Hundo, you need the best buddy, Galarian Stunfisk. And yeah, I mean, that's what you need, and it's really tanky. I have a Shundo myself. I got lucky with that. But that's going to be the SA and BTA for you for the Open Ultra League. Moving on to the other options. Buzzwole, a couple fighters actually. Buzzwole and Scrafty. So Buzzwole, with that Lunge, I like Lunge a lot because it debuffs your opponent, the counter, and the superpower. Just avoid the flying types, right? You know. And then we have Scrafty. Scrafty, of course, another really powerful fighting type user. It's really tanky in this meta. It could buff up with Power Punch and the Foul Play. Going to do well against the Jellicent, for example, because of that Foul Play. Going to do well against the Steel types. It is a fighting type, so it's going to be weak to fighting. But it's also going to be dishing out super effective damage towards like normal types or dog types, like the Obstagoon and like the Dubwool. Dubwool is another one with Double Kick. I don't have the XLs for it, but if you do, Dubwool could be a great Pokemon to use on your team. Glaciopod is another new pick for this season because it did receive Liquidation and it has Shadow Claw. So I liked using Glaciopod a lot in the Great League. It's not really meta changing or anything, but I think it could have some play. Clefable did receive Fairy Wind. I think Clefable is going to be an interesting Pokemon for the Open Ultra League. We'll have to see how common it is. Defense Deox is gaining a little bit of more play, thanks to Trevenant being nerfed and Trevenant not going to be as common. It still has Pokemon to watch out for, but I do think Deoxys does have some play. Maybe it could have bumped Deoxys up to the B rank, but I do think Deoxys has some play. Obviously, has to watch out for the Jellicent. I personally like Thunderbolt on Deoxys, so it can hit the Jellicent. At least it has play there. But Rock Slide is an option as well. It's going to struggle against Cresselia, though, which is a big thing. And then we have Abomasnow. Yep, Abomasnow, or Shadow Abomasnow, looking pretty good in this meta. Another strong Ice-type Pokemon. Going to be doing well against, I guess, well, I was going to say Flyers, but I guess that one Flyer, Pidgeot. If you happen to see a Noctowl, I don't think Noctowl's going to be that crazy. I think I battled one once in the Ultra League. Dragonite's another strong one. Ever since it got the Superpower, Dragon Breath, Superpower, Dragon Claw is generally the moveset. Trevenant, still a thing. You'll probably still see it here or there. Not going to be that common, but it is a thing you might see. Pelipper needs to be a Hundo and needs to be best buddied if you happen to have one. Pretty frail even in the Ultra League, but it does have some play. And then we have Alolan Sandslash receiving that buff this season from the Hidden Fates. I think it's going to be alright. So another Ice type to watch out for. We'll have to see how common it is. And then we have the Alolan Ninetales, so Charm or Powder Snow. I like the Shadow variant. I don't have the Shadow variant for the Ultra League, but really strong pick. Anyway, that's going to be the Ultra League for you. Let's go ahead and move on to the solid team options. So for the first team, I personally used this team last season, and it did well for me a couple seasons ago. I still think it's going to do well this season, maybe even better because Trevenant not being that common, right? It's going to be Pidgeot with Cobalion and Jellicent. So you could have Cobalion in the lead and then Pidgeot in the back. I used it both ways. I used it with Pidgeot in the lead and Cobalion in the lead. Both worked fine. Now, the thing with Pidgeot in the back, obviously that would be great when they had a Trevenant in the back, which happened a lot. But now that Trevenant's not going to be as common, I don't know how often that's going to happen where you can get that great farm with Pidgeot, because Trevenant's not going to be super common, right? So, but still, I think it's going to be a great team. Next up, we have a non-XL team, Swampert in the lead or Shadow Swampert with Cresselia and Giratina. So, I think Cresselia can get away with on this moveset to run Grass Knot and Moonblast over the Future Sight because you have Swampert for the fire types. Giratina is also doing pretty good against fire types if it has Ancient Power. Even if it doesn't, I mean, Charizard is just flimsy that Giratina can still do a lot of damage towards it. And of course, backline not really going to appreciate steel types, but Swampert does pretty well against steel. I think this is a great team. This has been a pretty common team I've seen quite often already, right, in the past. Then we have another team. I think her name is Paula. She hit rank 1 on the leaderboards with this team. She's an amazing battler, absolutely incredible, amazing battler. So it's going to be Galarian Stunfisk with Gliscor and Tapu Fini. I want to say she ran the Shadow Gliscor. I could be wrong about that, but she made rank 1 on the leaderboards with this powerful team. Now, when it comes to this season, Gliscor does have to watch out for the ice types because ice is more relevant now, like the Sandslash, like the Wolverine. But I still think if you Gliscor is still a really good Pokemon if you get it on the right matchup. Next up, we have a team that I've battled a good amount of times. It's going to be Dragonite with Double Steel, so Cobalion and Registeel. You could go with the Galarian Stunfisk over the Registeel. Dragonite or Shadow Dragonite with that superpower also gives you play against Steel types as well. You know, the backline going to be doing pretty well against Fairies should you happen to battle one. If it's one in the lead, you could save swap to like the Cobalion, so really strong team there. A team I actually might use as well. Next up, we have Wolverine in the lead, or Shadow Wolverine. Love the Shadow damage. Then Pidgeot and Cresselia in the back. So this looks like a pretty strong team. Pidgeot, I don't think I mentioned it, but needs to be a hundo and needs to be best buddied. I know it's an expensive league, but this is what the game gave us. Yeah, I mean, really powerful team. As for the Cresselia moveset, you could go with the Future Sight Moonblast combination because the Pidgeot is generally going to do well against the Jellicent because it is double resisting the ghost attacks, right? So they could only throw Surf or Bubble Beam, whatever moveset they have. And, you know, even with the Moonblast and Future Sight, it's still going to hit Jellicent for a lot of damage anyway. And then next up, we have Obstagoon in the lead. This is another non-XL team with Charizard and Swampert, or the Shadow Swampert, although we do have Community Day Pokemon in the back. Obstagoon, technically a Community Day Pokemon. I'm not the biggest fan of Obstruct. I have seen Night Slash and Obstruct. You could go that route. I would go Cross Chop, Night Slash, but it's up to you. Anyway, these are going to be the Ultra League teams. Let me know what Ultra League team you plan on using, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.